All right, as usual, I was sitting here entertaining myself by observing the insanity of my own mind. This has become a great source of entertainment for me. It really is quite incredible, the lengths that the mind will go to justify its own existence. And when I say mind, I suppose I'm referring to what is commonly known as the ego, which is really just your stream of consciousness. It's your stream of consciousness fused together with the image that you have created for yourself. If you asked your parents or your friends what they thought you were to describe you, this would be what they would say. Everything that they stated about you would be your ego. That illusory personality that has been crafted over all the years that you have been alive. When you're a baby, you don't even have a name. You don't associate yourself with a name. You're just in the moment observing all of this incredible stuff around you, and eventually it registers, oh, they're calling me Steve. My name is Steve. I am Steve. And then you're responding to this name. And over time, there are many things added to this, both good and bad, right? Varies based on your experiences. You can have very traumatic things that happen to you, and then that starts to be part of what is associated as you. Likewise, you can have very uplifting and amazing things that happen to you, and this also is filtered into the image that is you. I'm good at this, I'm not so good at that. And this becomes who you are. And it's interesting, we have a survival instinct as human beings, like all animals and other sentient creatures do. But for human beings, we are in a unique situation where we have been removed from nature. We don't have to survive in nature like we used to. And that struggle is very real and very difficult and produces behaviors along those lines. Very violent, aggressive behaviors. Hunting, predatory behaviors. Through the advent of industrial agriculture, we've removed ourselves from nature in that way. We produce our own domesticated version of what we would otherwise have to hunt for in the wild. And then our survival instinct is used in a different way against us, where we are then predatory in the way that we seek money and everything that goes along with that. Because money, of course, is how we obtain all of these things that we need to live. Accordingly, society has replaced our natural survival instinct with this artificial survival instinct. That is the behavior required to survive the concrete jungle. That which was built on top of nature. And we've all seen this sort of behavior. People who are not aware of anything else, their behavior is very predictable within this system. They seek out certain things using their survival instinct, and this can have very detrimental effects on those around them. Indeed, they're not preoccupied with how their actions affect anyone around them because they're in survival mode. Well, I have to get what is mine. I have to go after this paper and feed my family. What other choice do I have? This somewhat explains why we see what we see, as it relates to what appears to be a complete degradation of what it means to be a human being. Where if you're really stuck in this mindset, you'll walk right past a homeless individual and not even give it a second thought. You won't even wonder why they are in that position. I wonder what happened in their life to lead them down that path. And it's funny and ironic because a lot of them see what I'm describing now and decide, I want no part of this. And they end up homeless on the streets. Obviously, it would have been a lot better for them individually if they had stayed in the system long enough to acquire the skills to homestead or something like that, acquired enough resources to at least move out of the city and try to support themselves in a rural environment, as opposed to just throwing their hands up and living day to day in the city like that. And then running in tandem with the physical survival instinct is the social survival instinct that society requires. And this is what is programmed into us from a very young age that has all of the detrimental effects that we witness all around us. Meaning we learn how to view everything that happens to us as the result of something someone else did or caused to happen to us. We release any kind of self-responsibility. And you can see this so clearly in how the media portrays what is going on in the world, because they set it up so that you have someone or something to point your finger at to explain why you are in the situation that you are in. And this is the loop of insanity that most of the world is currently oscillating around over and over again every day. Nothing is ever their fault. There's always an explanation that absolves them from any sort of responsibility for the things that transpire in their life. It's a survival instinct, though, right? Because you need that social reputation that is perfect on the surface, right? This is everyone's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, where it's laid out in perfection to give themselves the most appealing reputation in the eyes of other insane people who are also doing the same thing. And so there is never any truth that is exchanged between these people that are functioning on this level. They are all maintaining this illusion between them that they have these perfect lives, and that is a survival instinct because that is what you need to advance yourself in this civilization. The two go hand in hand. The survival instinct to support yourself by making money goes hand in hand with this artificial reputation and image of yourself that you must create. Unfortunately, this is how the mind becomes insane. In addition to all of the subliminal, subconscious programming that is working on your being at all times, convincing you to do things that you otherwise would not do, the mind slowly becomes insane, completely detached from reality. And most people, because of this insanity, even if they recognize that they've done something wrong, you'll only get a sort of superficial apology from them, if you're lucky to get an apology at all. They might say the words, "I'm sorry," but there's no self-reflection in or imbued within the words themselves. It's very calculated to apologize. if you're viewing it from the survival instinct perspective. And we see this every day in the media where people issue these statements apologizing for wrongthink and pretending that they are sorry. No, they're not really sorry. They're just saying what they have to say to keep the paper flowing their way, to keep their position within society, that they worked very hard to craft an image for themselves that would get them to that point. And then we, the people who are not in those positions, we take our lessons on how to behave from viewing what is plastered in the media along these lines all around us. And at a certain point, when you become aware of what's taking place, you realize that everyone is sick. There's a pandemic going on in the minds of human beings. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about going within as the answer. You must go inside of yourself to seek the truth. But the majority of people who talk about it along those lines, they never give you any sort of explanation about how that really looks, what that actually requires. Because most of those people are trying to sell you a product. A lot of the time, that product being themselves, they're selling you a book or whatever product they've churned their identity into, which is referred to as a spiritual teacher or whatever. They want to make you dependent on them for your answers. So they will tell you that you need to go within, but they'll never give you what you need to actually do that successfully. Really, they've just taken the truth that is out there for anyone to find, and they've commodified it into this twisted version that fits within the predatory system that's all around us. And then they sell it back to you, knowing that your mind is still in the state that everyone else's mind is in. And so accordingly, you will not have the tools to see through them. And they have a lifetime customer. They have a lifetime cult member. It's very cynical what those type of people do. And reprehensible, actually. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have the answer fully to what that looks like, but I've done a lot of that work on myself, so I'll just share that, and you can decide whether it's worth anything or not. At its core, going within yourself is literal in a sense. You are going within your mind and observing your thoughts in real time. And as a part of that process, observing your role in all of the interactions that you have with other people. Now, before you become aware on the level required to do this type of thing, like I said, you're viewing all of your interactions as if someone is doing something to you. And this can even be abstractions, right? If something happens to you, you say, oh man, these people, they're all like this. They do this to me. As if you're removed from it. That's my point. You don't see your role within it, and you don't see how you are just the same as they are. Regardless of how smart or intelligent society has told you you are. In many ways, the smart, intelligent people are the worst along these lines because they've acquired book knowledge that they think makes them superior to those around them, but they have no inner knowledge of the role that they're playing in their own lives and in the lives of those around them. So they have no wisdom. But these are the people who are venerated by society as having wisdom because it's equated with education. But education has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. This is something that everyone, no matter where you live on planet Earth, can do because everyone on planet Earth has a mind. And you don't need to go to any type of school to learn how to do this. If you were to reduce it down to a phrase, it would be self-awareness. Being aware of yourself, being aware of your limitations, and being aware of your strengths. You know, it's funny, I sit here sometimes and I think of phrases. When I'm thinking along these lines of some of the things that I'm observing in the world, I'll say things like, why on earth would such and such happen? Or what in the world is going on here? It's just kind of a way to express energy in the moment, you know, when you observe something insane and you say, what in the world? Why on earth? And I'm thinking about those phrases on a deeper level because it reveals something about what I'm talking about here. You say, why on earth? And you're kind of pointing your finger at something as if it exists outside of you, not realizing that subconsciously what you're really asking is, why am I on earth? You see, why on earth? Why am I on earth? Similarly, you say, what in the world? What you're really asking is, what is this world? And these are the deeper questions that bring about self-reflection and self-awareness. Why am I on earth? What is this place? And obviously these are questions that I don't have the answer to. And it's a lifelong quest to figure these things out when you're in a sea of lies. So there's lies all around you giving supposed answers to this question, but none of them quite have it when you compare it to your intuition about what's going on. But it's just interesting how those phrases are, again, ways that you try to extract yourself from the situation as if you're not a part of it, as if you're not part of the insanity. But what you're really doing at the same time is asking yourself a deeper question if you have the eyes to see it. And I guess that's sort of a function of the language that we speak and how English was crafted, and I choose that word carefully there, to cast spells on people when they're speaking without awareness. You see, you could go back to the money thing and say, look at how we all go around and pretend that we are earning money. We're earning a living. And then you say, isn't it interesting how we put ashes of a dead person in an urn? Is that giving us a clue about what that earning process really is doing to us? Same thing when you say hello. Are you saying, oh, hell, every time you're in your mind greeting someone? Are you casting a spell on them, venerating hell? Mourning, you say good morning as in mourning someone's loss. Are you subconsciously mourning their existence in that way? And language is no different than any other phonetic symbol, right? You could say, well, a hexagram means this, but a hexagram doesn't really mean anything. There are people who know more than you do who all agree that the hexagram has meaning, and they have crafted symbols around that to show you that. And it might have some sort of subconscious power in that way because their minds are animating the egregore that is that symbol. And words could be similar along those lines if someone crafted them with that in mind to subconsciously cast spells on those around you without your knowledge and simultaneously transfer your energy to them through that process. But it's a function of intent, right? It doesn't even matter if I'm speaking what was designed to be a spell to someone through my words, if my intent is to truly wish them health and happiness in the moment that I see them and I say, hey, good morning, that intent transcends any sort of spell that was cast over the words. The very phonetic symbols that are strung together and coming out of my vocal cords like they are right now and being decoded by your sensory apparatus system. This is why neuro-linguistic programming and subconscious subliminal programming has the effect that it does. Because psychic communication is the same as phonetic symbol communication. It's all about the intent. Your brain is decoding the psychic information telepathically in the same way that your ears are decoding the sound waves and your eyes are decoding the light waves. It's just a different form of decoding, and it's a form that everything here in this realm is designed to prevent you from tapping into. And that's why it's viewed as this myth or a fairy tale that people could communicate in this way. And that's why the programming that is on that level is so very effective. And then that contributes to our predatory state of mind, the two streams of that, seeking the paper and seeking this image for yourself that combines into the illusion that is your personality, who you identify as, and accordingly, who you protect at all costs. And that's what we want to get to as it relates to self-improvement and self-reflection. Self-awareness. Why are you protecting this illusion? And that's what people mean when they say you need to work on your ego or dismantle it in some way. Of course, you don't want to get rid of it because it's your survival instinct. It's what keeps you surviving and functioning. It's not that you want to dismantle it or get rid of it. It's just you want to transcend how it is controlling you and your actions currently, if you're in that state of being. Transcend your view of yourself and who and what you are. You are not that illusory personality that is your name. You are not the things that that name and that personality went through until you reached the moment where you broke out of who you used to be. You can't blame yourself for the way you acted or the things you did to other people when you were asleep in that way, under mind control in that way. And a lot of people never get further on their path because they get stuck in shame about what they did to somebody or what happened to them, and you just have to let that go. And I know it's easier said than done. But it's much easier when you not only forgive yourself for what happened when you were like that, but also all of the other people that were involved in any of those moments. Again, we're not absolving them from their actions. We're just saying, look, I'm not going to torture you for what you did when I know that you were serving this illusory version of yourself when you decided to do whatever you were doing. And there is no way to know. We each have such unique paths, and we each have such unique experiences, and so many of them. There's no way to know what some individual experienced over his or her whole lifetime that led them to view a situation in a way where they acted and did something heinous, like molested a child or something along those lines. When you get outside in the world and start seeing how life communicates with itself through you and through other people, all as one collective mind, as you view that communication unfolding, you start to see, oh, I understand how mind control is possible now. I understand how it works. People don't know what they're doing on a fundamental level. And so you stop pointing your finger at them all of a sudden. Whereas you used to do that, now you're seeing, oh, I see this as much bigger than just a person doing something insane. Everybody's insane. And that's the first key to self-awareness. Because when you recognize that everyone, including yourself, is insane, then you stop trying to protect the illusion that is your personality. And then you become vulnerable. And amazing things start to happen when you're vulnerable with other people. Now, you have to be careful, of course, because when you're in a survival mentality, or when people all around you are in that mentality, and they sense that vulnerability, they will perceive it as weakness if you are not strong and centered with your energy of vulnerability. So you have to be really careful with how you expose that to a stranger. Don't get that twisted. It's funny, just an innocent example, what we all went through in America during this alleged pandemic. We had the toilet paper and a lot of food just completely wiped out of the supermarkets. People were hoarding these things, which just shows you how insane the survival instinct has become, that we are so removed from nature that people are going into these stores hoarding everything because they don't know how to survive on their own without it. And they think, oh, I have to take all of this now while I can. I don't care about these other people. I just have to take as much as I can now so I myself can survive. Knowing subconsciously that they can't survive on their own in the wild. And so if the lights went out, that equates to their life being over. And yeah, it does show you just how on the edge we are of civilized society versus complete and utter chaos. And that's unfortunate, right? Because if people were centered and they understood what was going on, they would not be behaving in that way. But of course, they're under mind control. You can't blame them for this. And that energy is really put into the culture of those who pretend to be awake. This superiority complex that you supposedly now have over all these other people. And I always just crack up when I hear this, because it's like, I don't know if you were like me. Maybe you're very unique, and since you were born, you've been aware of all this. But me, for the first 28 years of my life, I was completely oblivious to reality. I had no idea. So it would be insane for me to point my finger at somebody else who's still under the spell and be like, hey, you have something wrong with you. I'm way better than you are. Pfft, get out of my sight, peasant. You know what I mean? It wouldn't even make any sense to do that for me, because I was that person only a decade ago. And again, this is part of self-awareness, being honest with yourself. I could use all of the information that I've acquired over these 10 years and come at you with this idea that I know so much and you should listen to me because I know all of these things. And I could package it as a product and sell myself in that way, but that would be insane. Why would I make you buy some product that I created to sell back to me? I'm selling it back to myself. And would I want myself to have to jump through all of these hoops to get out of the insanity that I was in and the insane things that I was doing back then? No, of course not. If I was viewing the other person as myself, I would freely give it to them and be like, here, please, take it. Of course, you can't... you can only lead a horse to water, as they say. You can't make the horse drink. But I would still say, hey, take it. Please. Because I would understand at that point that I'm only helping myself by doing that, because everyone else is me. We're all a part of the same mind. Sure, we have our own individuality and free will, and that's what makes this experience so incredible when you're tapped in on this level. Realizing that everyone's going through their own unique experience and experiencing all of these incredible things that's unique to them, but still we share the same underlying physiology and the same underlying energetic structure that is plugged into the collective scalar mind. And so on one level, everyone is me. We're all communicating. It's just we're unaware of how that communication takes place. But anyway, self-awareness is looking at your thoughts and your actions and seeing how you impact other people. If you have a relationship with someone, I don't care what it is, friend, spouse, parents, what other kind of relationship is there? A work colleague, you name it. If you have a relationship like that that is problematic, when you're not doing this and not being introspective in this way and conscious of every thought that you have, you might just resign yourself and say, well, I'm just not going to get along with this person. And that can be true in the sense that you might be on two different levels of awareness. So there's only so close that you can get to that person. And then at that point, you just have to say, okay, it's not going to get any closer than this right now. So let's just keep this where it's at. I'm not going to push any further. But anyway, you look at that relationship and there's some tension there for some reason. There's some friction, and it's like a loop. It's this insane cycle that you're playing out with this person over and over and over again. What you don't realize is that there is something you are doing that is interacting with that person's energy field, informational field, sensory decoding system. On some level, you are doing something that is triggering their reaction to you, and then their reaction to you is triggering your reaction to them, and then you're in this insane cycle of whatever it is, abuse, tension, arguing, just an unhealthy cycle that you're in with this person. But if you stick with it long enough and you don't tell the other person what they are doing to create that situation for you, you don't point your finger at them and say, you caused this. You say, no, I'm going to point the finger at myself and look and see what I'm doing to contribute to this cycle. And that's when you start looking at your thoughts. Okay, what do I think about this person? How are my thoughts about this person potentially playing into how I react to what they're saying or doing to me? And then you can say, well, all right, now I'm going to shift, regardless of how my ego, that illusory predatory personality, is viewing the situation and has all of the arguments and excuses for why it's the other person. Regardless of all that, I'm going to focus on how it's my mind, something in there that is contributing to this. And then slowly over time, you observe your interaction with this person and you can see, oh, it'll be hard. Don't get me wrong. You can be confused for a while and, not see what it is. But eventually you have that salient moment where you say, oh, I was doing this. I was viewing this person in this way. I was saying this thing to this person. And now I know that was triggering them. Triggering some trauma, triggering some self-esteem issue they have, or some deep-rooted shame that they have about themselves that you are triggering. And by triggering, I mean you're triggering the protective survival mechanism that is the mind. It's trying to protect you for survival. And so that is manifesting a lot of the time for most of the people on planet Earth right now as defensive. But when you introspect in this way, you start to lose your defensiveness. Not that it goes away, because it's always going to be there, and you will always be able to be triggered by other people. But you have to forgive yourself when that happens. Be easy on yourself, and tell the other person, look, I'm working on myself. My apologies if this is coming off as defensive in any way. And then you work through it. You say, well, whatever has transpired, this insane cycle that we've been in, I now see the role that I was playing in that. And if you are vulnerable in that way, you can be taken advantage of, like I said, but often the other person will start reciprocating that energy. Even if they're not on your level, they'll reciprocate that vulnerability. And they'll at least concede a little ground, even if they're not quite at the level where they can be where you're at. They'll reciprocate that energy. And I'm speaking like this would be a conversation you have with somebody, but this could just be under the surface, energetically, how you approach anybody. Myself, I try to have the same energy every time I go out in public to everyone. I just interact with everyone equally in the same way. Doesn't matter who they are, where they come from, whatever. But that takes practice. And at first, someone cuts you off when you're driving and you revert back to the old you that's insane and that gets mad at something like that. Now I just kind of laugh at it and I just wave at them like, yeah, come on in. Like, you're going to do what you're going to do, and I understand the situation, and I'd rather there be a positive vibe from this situation than a negative vibe, no matter how inconsiderate what you did might have been. But it's funny, that's an innocent example of self-awareness. Now, wait a second. Did I do something that contributed to that? Was I putting out some sort of energy like, don't pull out, don't pull out, don't pull out? And then that resistance was transmuted and decoded by their sensory apparatus system as pull out, pull out, pull out, So you got to look at it like that. And that's what I mean, You really have to analyze how you are interacting with everyone and everything around you. That is self-awareness, and that is what it means to go within, to view yourself in that way. It's almost like being out of body. Imagine it like, I'm going to follow myself around today. And you kind of extract your awareness from your physical body in that way. And you're observing yourself almost in the third person. And if you do that consistently, it's like anything else. You start to learn your patterns. And you start to see yourself for who you really are. In other words, as your awareness becomes more and more connected back to creation as it was designed, you see how insane your old self was, and you're still in there with it, but you start to see it, and then you start to forgive it and release it and let it go, and then that just cascades upon itself like the snowball rolling down the mountain that gets bigger and bigger and bigger with more and more momentum. And you have breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough, and you really start to shed those layers of the old you that were just weighing you down, and you're lighter on your feet and you're more alive and life is incredible again. And even in spite of what's going on all around you, and it's contagious. I'm not going to say it's not contagious. People can feel that, and it's pretty cool. I just had an interaction earlier today. I was coming back from the store and I was outside, and one of my neighbors was coming out, and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" This is this sweet old lady. And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing good. How are you?" And she just goes, "Great." I was not expecting that. She said great with this enthusiasm that I was not expecting. And I said, "Oh, that's a wonderful way to perceive the world." And she goes, "I know. If I just, view it like that, I think it'll start to reflect my reality." And I'm just amazed that this woman is saying these things to me that I was thinking. It's life is cool, man. It is. It's pretty cool. And maybe I have a different philosophy because of what I went through the past year and a half, or a renewed innocence to how I'm viewing just being alive. Maybe that contributes to the energy that I've been carrying around lately, but hopefully that'll help make sense of what it means to go within a little more clearly. Because you can get caught up in this idea that you're going to, I'm going to sit down, meditate, think about going into myself and connect with God or creation or spirit or however you want to perceive it, whatever label you want to put on top of it, right? Remembering the phonetic symbols and remembering that that's just energy that you're putting around a concept to visualize it in your mind. It doesn't really matter which word you use to call it, other than the fact that some of the words have been charged with so much collective mental energy that they're alive in a sense. That's what an egregore is. Insert any word you can think of along those lines. Anyway, you're sitting there and it's like you're going to go through a procedure where this thing outside of you is going to come down from the clouds and connect into your being. And then that will be what going within is. And you'll have this insane moment. But that's not what it is. It's something that is happening within you, because what is inside of you is also what is outside of you. It's all one thing. So you cannot, well, I shouldn't say cannot, because you could do it, but that's why you don't succeed. It's when you objectify God or spirit or creation in that way, like it's something outside of you that's going to connect with you in a way that you can see it. That's when you don't succeed, when you view it like that. But it makes you up, and it makes everything that you see up. It's everything. So there is no connecting to it in that physical way outside of you. And I think a lot of people view it in those terms. And then that's what I was getting at when I was referring to these people who kind of sell that back to other people as a product. They sit there and they wonder why they can't figure it out. And it's because they're reading all of this material or watching all of these videos, thinking that there's going to be some moment where they see this connection take place. But no, it happens as you become aware of what the scalar mind really is and how you're communicating with everything at all times. It's both inside of you and outside of you. That's when you succeed, when you have that realization. In other words, the cord is already there. You just have to plug it back into the socket in your mind, metaphorically. And the man they call Jesus came here to try to teach you how to put the cord back into the socket yourself, so you could be like he was.